What if today was the day the Lakers didn't need permission to be the Lakers? I'm talking about the version of this franchise that stops, asking whether we can just survive one more playoff push with duct tape on the wings and instead starts dictating the entire rhythm of basketball in this city. In this conference, when the calendar turns mean, that's where my head is today. And the name at the center isn't a blockbuster fairy tale or some legacy for you swap meant to juice headlines. It's the most practical, playoff honest idea on the board. Go get the kind of long, fast, low-maintenance wing who turns other people's game plans into bad ideas. And yes, the one circling our conversation is Derrick Jones Jr., currently parked across town in a brand new arena wearing the other colors. Let me make this simple before we dive. I'm not selling you smoke. I'm walking you through what the Lakers actually need to win in May. What Jones actually does that travels to the postseason. Why the numbers on his deal make this talk feasible. What the ripple effects would look like for LeBron, AD, and the rest of the rotation. And why calling across the hallway is messy, but not impossible at the front. Office is serious about closing the most obvious hole on this roster. Stay with me, because I want your take near the end. I need to know whether you'd spend real assets for a defender who won't top our scoring charts, but might win us the 142 possession that decides a series. Here's the reality I keep coming back to after every big Lakers conversation. This team doesn't need a splashy new face of the franchise to function. It needs a wing who will do 3 jobs at once and never ask for the microphone. Every time this group falls into the same playoff pattern stars hunted in space, AD dragged out of the paint. Corner threes conceded after difficult closeouts. You can trace the fatigue to that missing profile. It's the guy who refuses switches, who sits on first options without fouling, who sprints through dead possessions and turns them alive with a deflection, a leak out, a second effort that steals a bucket in a game that otherwise feels like rock fighting. That's where Derrick Jones Jr. fits like a made-to-measure solution. He's the 6'6", 7-foot wingspan wing with violent vertical pop you already know from the highlights. But the novelty act ended a while ago. What matters now is how he matured into a multi-position defender with enough discipline and angles to check guards and bigger wings without melting. When Dallas last year decided he was more than a burst off the bench, they were right. Starting him and letting him live in the gaps between stars turned into one of those underrated decisions that only becomes obvious after you watch him for 2 months straight. He didn't need touches to be relevant. He cut on time, ran the floor like a wing track star, and finished lobs that flip momentum before your TV graphic catches up. He planted in the corner just enough to keep a defense honest, and then on the other end, he kept doing the boring, beautiful work that saves legs for your closers. That's exactly what this version of the Lakers keeps needing when the temperature rises and every possession stings. Now imagine that package dropped into Darvin Ham's nightly calculus. LeBron doesn't have to wear the opponent's strongest win for long stretches in March and April just to keep a game stable. Anthony Davis gets to do more of the thing he's uniquely great at, punching out attempts at the rim and patrolling the paint without paying the tax of constant perimeter emergency duty. Austin Reeves gets an extra layer of help at the nail and a running partner who turns his lev ball steals into instant layups. Matchups become easier to sculpt. You can go small without waving a white flag on the glass because Jones rebounds his area and contests vertically. You can stay big and keep him at the 3 to erase some of the wing scoring that has bullied this team in second quarters for 2 seasons. Even in regular season pockets, the value shows up in tiny ways that compound. Fewer loose ball fouls from scrambling to fix a blown switch. Fewer 2-to-the-ball moments that crack open corner threes. More runway possessions that remove the burden of solving every half-court trip with LeBron's wizardry. If you've been watching this team as long as I have, you feel it in your bones one more true. Stopper on the perimeter changes the entire emotional labor of a Lakers fourth quarter. Let's talk numbers and timing, because that's where these Conversations usually die for fans. The money isn't choking. Jones is not sitting on a max that demands we torch the rotation to match salary. He's on a mid-tier deal that lives in the realm contenders play in when they rebuild their wing depth at the deadline. That matters because it keeps the conversation in the world of real front office work-stackable contracts. A pick or two, maybe a swap rather than fantasy packages that rip out the team's spine. Timing matters too, and I'm not naive about it. Newly signed free agents have trade eligibility windows, and teams tend to use that early season runway to decide who they actually are before they pick up the phone on due-able deals. But this isn't a July whimsical. This is exactly the kind of mid-season adjustment that contenders make once the standings harden and everybody sees their flaws in HD. If the Lakers get to that point where the wing gap is still flashing red, having a target who fits this cleanly and doesn't require a complete teardown is the kind of preparation that separates opportunistic front offices from reactive ones. There's also the part nobody in the building will say out loud on camera, but everybody feels. Calling the Clippers for a wing they pay precisely because he matches their new identity is spicy. It taxes the optics. They're in a gleaming new building built to shout independence, preaching that they can be fast, long, relentless without borrowing our vibe. Trading one of their main defensive energy pieces to us is not the kind of move they want to see replayed on national TV when we share a city and a nightly conversation. But front offices make cynical choices when the price is right and the board forces them. If LA on our side can construct a package that keeps the core intact and upgrades the perimeter without shredding the rotation math, then you at least make them say no. That's the entire job. Because if your alternative is waiting for a bigger name to shake loose, you risk paying twice the price for half the fit while the West refuses to wait for you to get comfortable. Now, let me get granular on why Jones in purple and gold would look better than the sounds of people who only follow box scores. He doesn't ruin spacing. He lives in the corners, the baseline, the dunker spot, and in the invisible lanes that good passers open. He will backcut your sleepest defender on the third possession of a quarter, and he'll do it again on the ninth. He will screen and immediately slip, force a low man to tag, and buy you a swing three without ever dribbling twice. On a team that often depends on LeBron as the brain and a D as the gravity, he becomes the speed. That is meaning when you're stuck in a rock fight, down 3, 2 minutes left, both teams in the bonus, and everyone is exhausted. He's still popping off the floor, still beating his man to the edge, still hunting the one mistake that flips a possession. Defensively, the vocabulary is simple: contain, contest, finish. He gets square early, takes the first hit on drives without drifting, and finishes plays with length no cheap reach-ins that bail out a scorer. In short, a playoff player who makes stars' lives easier without asking for their touches. How many times have we said the Lakers are one wing short during LeBron's time here? How many times have we watched a D cover for a blown switch on the perimeter and then still have to rush back for a block, only to see the ball kicked to the corner with 2.3 on the clock for a dagger three? This is the antidote to a very specific disease, Dot. So what does the rotation cost and payoff actually look like? If you bring Jones in, you're not asking him to be a 30-minute scorer. You're carving out 20 to 26 minutes that swing with matchup and foul context. Some nights he checks the hottest wing for extended stretches, and your offense runs through a D-post touches. LeBron reads pick and roll and scramble reads. Other nights, he's a transition engine. 2 deflections, a chase down, and 3 runouts that turn a 6-point deficit into a 1-point lead and force a timeout. You pair him with Reeves and a spacing guard to keep the floor lifted. You pair him with a D and another plus defender when you want to go switch heavy and make a younger, more athletic team feel claustrophobic. And crucially, you buy LeBron those hidden 2-minute rests where you don't hemorrhage points because the wing point of attack isn't a fire drill. Those hidden minutes decide so many regular season seed lines and later who gets a Game 7 at home. This is not theory. This is how modern contenders live. Let's address the big-name elephant that always comes up. When any Lakers rumor hits the air, why not swing for the fences on a superstar instead? I get it. The jersey sales, the headlines, the dopamine. But be honest with yourself about our last two playoff exits, our most gutting losses this calendar year. The way our best players look late in games when they've been carrying perimeter defense for 35 minutes. We are not one more 30 usage scorer away. We are one ruthless wing away. When that piece is present, watch how LeBron's fourth quarters change. Watch how AD's foul profile settles. Watch how Reeves gets to control tempo rather than survive it. Stars need helpers who don't blink, not more mouths to feed in the same 6 feet of half-court real estate. If a mega name falls into our lap at the right price, fine. But waiting for that while the obvious solution stares you down is not ambition. It's vanity. There's a city angle too, and I won't pretend it's not part of the juice. Stepping into the other team's brand new, building and pulling one of their culture pieces would be a statement about who sets the terms in Los Angeles basketball. I don't care how many LED screens, decibel meters, or bells and whistles the new place has. Identity is forged in the players you trust in the last 5 minutes. And wings like Jones are identity pieces for teams that promise speed and fight. Taking him would be more than adding a rotation guy. It would be erasing one of their loudest proof of concepts and stapling it to our defense. That's not pettiness. That's strategy in a city where the dialogue is daily and the postseason is theater.now. I want you to hear my bottom line clean, because I'm not hedging. If the Lakers can structure this without touching the real core and without shipping out the connective tissue that makes our second units function, they should sit at this table. Jones is exactly the kind of non-flash, high-leverage ad that wins you the 2 stops you never get back in a series. He will not dominate counting stats, but he will dominate moments. He covers ground we've been begging somebody to cover so a D can be a D, and LeBron can control late-game tempo like only he can. He's affordable in the ecosystem we inhabit. The risk is price and the rival tax. The reward is structural sanity in the minutes that have bled us dry. That's the calculus. And I'll say it the way I feel it. Sometimes the difference between an interesting Lakers team and a trusted Lakers team is one defender who plays harder for longer than the guy in front of him and makes you feel like the last 5 minutes belong to us again. Here's where I leave it to you. Because this channel lives on honest Laker brainpower, would you push real assets for Derrick Jones Jr. if it means finally sealing the wing? Or do you hold for a shinier name that might not fit as cleanly? Drop your answer below. I want to read every take tonight. And if you're new here, make sure you're subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report. Hit the like, turn on notifications. I'm going to keep bringing you what's real around this team, with quick updates when the board shifts and deep dives when it matters. Final read from me. This move doesn't win a press conference, but it might win the stop that closes a series. Your turn, what would you do?